Today, I'm going to start an online business completely from scratch, and I'm going to show you how to get your first customers all by using free software. The best part about this is it's only going to cost $1, and that's going to be a pretty important thing that we buy. In the end, I basically want to show you how accessible it is to get up and running to start your own business from anywhere in the world. And I'm going to talk about some of the most important things that I think people get wrong when they go into approaching starting a new business from scratch. And the whole purpose of this video is to show you how you can do this, get it up and running in as little as 10 hours. So we're going to go ahead and start the timer now. I'm going to walk you through starting up with an idea to implementing that idea and getting your first customer. So let's go. Now, the reason I'm doing this is to show you that luck is a part of the equation, but by working hard, having the right systems, and taking the right approach, you can essentially remove luck from the equation. And I want to prove to you that that's possible in this video here. Now, the same system I'm sharing with you today has already been proven, it already works, and it's already generated more than $75,000 just in the past 30 days. Now, I'm going to switch over to the screen share, and again, if you want all these documents, I'll basically be showing you how you can access all the templates, the documents, and everything that I use here today for free. So you're going to want to stick around. Basically, there's going to be 4 main areas to starting any new offer, any new business, and this is the same sort of process I've used to start and scale multiple 6, 7, and 8-figure online businesses. So starting off at number 1 is where most people get right. They come up with an idea and they don't necessarily use the right formula to actually go ahead and implement this. So the first thing is clarify your offer, who it's for, who's the avatar, and what are the pain points or problems that they're having. So you want to define precisely what problem you solve, who it's for, and why does this matter. A clear and simple offer makes it easier for prospects to immediately see the value. A lot of times people call this the elevator pitch because you need to be able to understand within a few seconds what the heck this person is offering. And if you can't explain it in 5 to 10 seconds, again, nobody is going to really stick around for that 1-hour explanation. And so the simplest formula that I recommend everyone doing is basically saying the XYZ formula. I help X. That's your avatar, the person. I help plumbers, okay? Plumbers in Missouri. Maybe it's plumbers in Missouri that have, over 10 teammates. So you have to have the internal sort of avatar and the external avatar. And so basically what you want to do is, what is the problem that you're going to help them with? That's going to be the main thing that they're having. Most plumbers probably aren't tech savvy. They don't understand SEO, how to get more clients and leads. And so that's going to be the problem you're solving, bringing them in more money and more customers. And then the solution is basically how you do it. How do you actually solve this problem for them? Maybe you set up search campaigns, paid ads, email outreach, whatever your secret sauce is, you can even get it a nice little name. And so one of the examples I have here that uses this formula is I help early stage B2B SaaS founders land their first 100 paying users through a proven go-to-market systems and LinkedIn outreach. Now, again, this would probably need a little bit more fine-tuning if I'm going to be putting it on my website or landing page, but you kind of understand the process of how to think about this. And so what I would do with this is, just to clarify your offer, I would take this formula, go ahead and put who you want to offer to, the problem you're solving. And so here we've kind of defining early stage B2B SaaS founders. And so if I'm wanting to make the internal documents, I want to figure out who that is, who, where, when, why, what. So this is the basis of like what you need to figure out, right? So who, okay, plumbers, or let's just do the B2B SaaS. That's a little vague, right? So let's go ahead and define this. Maybe they're AI SaaS founders. And so where are they located? Let's just say North America or USA based. But in general, a lot of times you need to get even more specific. Maybe it's, a city in the US. I suggest starting off in, like, if you're from, I'm originally from St. Louis, so I would just start off with St. Louis, Missouri. And, you might not have enough AI founders in St. Louis, Missouri, so you might need to go to, San Francisco or, New York or whatever. But again, you want to start off in a market that you know and understand. And again, people who are from St. Louis are going to be a little bit more open. You might have like a 10% higher conversion rate if you're also from St. Louis, just because it's like, hey, this is a real person. They're down the street. They're not overseas. So again, use this to your advantage if you live in a city. And so when this is just basically going to be like now, when can also say like, what's the timeline that you actually help people? So for 100 paying customers, that could be like 3 months, 3 years. So I would say put a time frame on it. Now, within 3 months, I think that's a good timeline. It's like realistic enough that, you can actually fulfill this. Why? Because most software developers struggle with marketing and sales. And so what do you do? So the what could be like the how. And so like for this, we'll just do LinkedIn outreach. And basically what we want to do is we want to kind of extend this. Like, what does our actual avatar look like? And we can give them a name. So we call Sam the SaaS savvy. And basically Sam, he has a really good idea. He's great. He is good at product development. He knows how to build software. Maybe he had some success in AI at another tech company. What is he bad at? So what my experience with most devs, tech founded people, they aren't good at marketing and sales. They don't know how to sell themselves. And so the thing that they're good at is also like a double-edged sword because they think building more features is going to somehow magically get them more customers. So they focus on features, product, dev, which is great because again, you want to have a good product and you want to have good features, but in general, I've seen a lot of developers who spend 5 years and they spend 40 hours a week making new features that maybe one person requested and they build it and that person doesn't even use it because it's not actually solving the main problem they need. And so what we need to understand is what are those core features that are going to fit to the marketplace and actually be valuable. And so a lot of times I work with SaaS founders, I work with a lot of people who are starting their startups, and they keep thinking about what are these new features. And so I usually tend to focus like, hey, stop that. Let's do a survey and figure out what our people actually want. And so this survey has been one of the fastest ways I've been able to get my first 100 paying customers. And so the way it works out is you survey 1,000 people, you ask them about their budget, their software they're using, what sort of pain points they have in their business. And so if you can get 1,000 people to take a survey for free, then you basically have 1,000 leads. And what you're going to do is of that 1,000, usually 100 of them can convert, or that you can get them on a phone call and they can either recommend somebody and become your first beta customers. So in the survey, we want to figure out pain points, budgets, time frame. And so the acronym I use, and this is something my mentor taught me, shout out to you, Davis. So BID is budget, identity, and desire. And so the BID framework is something that I now use in every single sales op, biz op, everything that I'm doing here. And so the budget is going to be how much money do they have to invest? And so the problem with this offer, just by like looking at it, is like, man, a lot of early stage B2B founders just don't have money, right? So unless you're going to take some sort of equity or upside, like your business model, you're so confident in this, it's probably going to be a little bit hard because like most of these B2B SaaS founders that don't have customers, it's likely going to be a lot harder and your success rate is going to fail. So in general, what I would do is like spend hours on this kind of like offer, get it really tight, because just by looking at this and kind of thinking about this and going down, you're probably going to have a lot of people who are like, yeah, I will join, all I want is 10% of the people that I bring on. That's a no-brainer offer for a B2B SaaS founder, but you're essentially becoming an affiliate for an unproven product. And so you might want to say, maybe that's already established. So let's just say remove their first 100 paying customers. We're going to shift our focus instead of early stage. We're going to shift it to B2B more established. So we're going to help more established. Again, there's like the early stage who haven't made $1. We don't want to focus on them because they don't have any money. We want to focus on the people who've made a little bit of money, but they haven't, scaled up. They're not the HubSpots, the Calendlys. They're not the like enterprise software or household names. We want to focus on these people who are making probably like, let's just say $10,000 a month from their software. And so this is where the avatar comes in, because a person making $10,000 a month is going to be easy to understand. It's going to be easy to ask, like in the survey, So they're making 10K MRR. They have at least, 100 customers. Let's just say they've been around for 1 year. And so I'm hoping that this example can kind of show you how you should think about who's going to take out their wallet and be able to give you, thousands of dollars to help them out. And so you want to really structure this because every decision you make moving forward is going to come back to this. And you could start a little bit broader and then kind of work your way down into making it more specific. But in general, you really need to understand this. And so how much money do they have? Like, what is their qualification? And so there's a few questions we can ask. And in the B2B space, you don't necessarily have to ask how much money do you make every month. You can ask like, what's your team size? And you can say like full-time employees, And basically that's going to give you a little bit of insight. You can just also ask like, what's your monthly recurring revenue? What's your churn? And so you can ask a little bit more specific questions that are going to give you a little bit more insights to like what stage they're at. Because if their MRR is at like 0, it's just not going to be a good fit. If their MRR is probably at like 1 million, it's also likely not going to be a good fit. And so what you want to figure out is like, what is that core demographic? You're probably looking for somebody like 10K to, 30K. And so these people, they've got a proven product. They have money to reinvest. And they are going to probably already figure out one marketplace or one way to drive traffic, and you're going to be coming to them with a new traffic feel, right? So email, LinkedIn outreach, some other type of cold and warm outreach to help you get this. And so asking these questions is going to give you a lot of insight on where they're at financially. And so when you're doing sales, when you're getting on a call with them, you're going to understand like, hey, this person's just never going to be a good fit. They don't have the money. And so let's say you wanted to, potentially talk to some of these people who haven't made any sort of investment, because the person making $10,000 to $30,000 per month, they might convert at. So this is your ICP, which stands for Ideal Client Profile. And so you might have your ICP that is within this range. And let's say they close at 50%. But let's say we've got the people that are making, 0 to 5K. They might still be fitting in your MRR or in your bid framework here. They might be outside of your ideal, but they still might fit your client profile. And so the reason that's important is because they might close at 20%. And so if you've got an empty calendar, even a 20% chance that they're going to close is still probably worthwhile. But as you grow and scale, eventually your calendar is going to get booked up and you're going to need to know, hey, this 20% isn't worth our time. We need to disqualify them. And so you're going to have tiered metrics to figure out, okay, is this person worth having an hour on our salesperson's call? Because we know that hour is potentially taking an hour slot for this person here. And so what you can do is you can cancel these calls and focus on these people. And so this is just one element. We got to go to identity and desire here to figure out the other elements. So identity is going to be a few other things. So it can be, based in USA. For example, let's say you get some leads from India. Yeah, they might close. Let's say they put down that they're making this much, but they're just not in your core demographic. Let's say you're using, cold calling, email, LinkedIn, whatever in the US in English. Let's say they're India, not in English. That's going to be a hard identity for your primary ideal client profile, your ICP. So what I suggest doing is just pick a marketplace. I typically recommend people to focus on the USA, but again, there's a lot of opportunities. If you're overseas, focus on your local market. It's going to be a lot easier. And so this can be other things about them. Do they have an office? Team size? Other things like what type of stack? Even it can just be like what type of business, like maybe they're B2C. And so you can see like, hey, they're not actually B2B. All right, so we've got the B2B versus B2C. Again, you're trying to think of things that disqualify this type of person who's just not going to be a good fit for you. And then the desire, this is going to be things like, how soon are they ready? Somebody who's ready to start, in 1 year, they're not going to be as warm. You're not going to want to put your focus on the people who are ready to start next year. You want to put your focus on the people who are ready to start soon, probably within the next few weeks, the next month. Again, when you're thinking of bid, budget, identity, desire, you want to make sure that you're coming up with at least two of these people or two of these like qualifiers. They don't need to have all three. They don't always need to have like all two even, but if they have all three, the likelihood of closing is going to be something like this. So like 70% all three, 50%, if they have budget. Budget seems to be the one that is the hardest to overcome, because if your service costs $5,000 and they're in India making $1,000 a month, I just don't think they're ever going to be able to afford your service. There's never going to be a good fit. And then, maybe if they have 30%. If they only have budget but they don't have the other ones, like you can still close at 30%. And so like let's say they have the budget, desire here. That might work well. But let's say they only have budget here. We're looking at 30%. Again, this is just an example and kind of what I've seen from my offers. And so if they don't have the budget, if they just have desire and identity, you're looking at maybe like 10%, 10 to 15. So I put a bigger emphasis on budget, but again, it really depends on your offer, who your target is, what sort of options you have, what price point, things like that. And so once you have all this figured out, what I suggest doing is we'll basically just go ahead and put this into ChatGPT. And so if you don't have ChatGPT, again, it's free to use. Just another example of probably like the most powerful software out there that you can use for free. So the prompt that I'm going to use here is help me create a business name website URL that is open on GoDaddy and a few value proposition to get my first customers. So we're just going to copy and paste all these details in. We're going to give ChatGPT some ammo here to come up with something and brainstorm. And so again, guys, if you're breaking down the 10 hours of how to look at this, you probably want to spend 1 hour on this, maybe 2. And the biggest issue I see with most people is they spend 10 hours on this and then they spend 1 hour on marketing and sales. And so I think it's kind of an 80-20 thing. The better your offer is, the better your avatar and who you're actually going after. Of course, that foundation needs to be very strong, but I see people focus on that for not just 10 hours, but like 10 months or multiple years, and they don't do any of the marketing and sales, which is the most important part. And so let's just see what ChatGPT came up with. Sats grow, scale to 100, launch 100. Yeah, so I really don't like these names. I don't like these names, so let's go ahead and just like reprompt it. Again, ChatGPT, it takes some like give and take. I probably didn't use the best prompt there. Um, Here's some better ones. Let's just try to not use SaaS. And so with the business name, I usually suggest going a little bit wider. Let's just say, in the future, you don't want to only deal with SaaS founders. You can deal with like agencies or, people who are running Shopify stores, stuff like that. So I like this Traction Lab. I also like Client Spring. Let's see which ones have available domains. All right, so it's not really doing a good search job there. So basically, what I want to do is just see. You don't always need to get the .com. I prefer that just in general. But let's see what Traction Lab is. So tractionlab.com is taken. Let's see what else there is. Traction. You can sometimes get the IO or the AI. Let's see what other names. I like the Client Spring, but that's not super tech focused. It's more agency. Founder Lift. I like Acquirely, but that's got to be. And so let's do this again. And so I want to show you guys, like, this is important. Like, if you are thinking about your business, like, I wouldn't spend 10 hours on this, but you do want to find something that is going to be like, you say the name and people can kind of understand exactly what you do. So I like Founder Lift. I like that kind of angle. So I want to come up with a few other ideas that are similar to this. Founders, Lift Foundry. I like Founder Boost. Let's see if that's actually open. All right, guys, we found a domain for 1 cent. So under $1, first year, Founder Booster. I like that. Again, I like Founder Boost better, but I doubt that's available. Yeah. 7Gs. So what I would do is, again, just for this, just grab the 1 cent one. If after you made your first 10, 20 grand, then go into like the naming stuff. It can matter long term, but again, I've seen a lot of stuff like you can change. Think about it, try to find something good. But if you can't find the .com, don't drop 7 grand on that. Make your first 20 grand first, and then maybe you can switch your name or get the .com. But in general, like, you don't need to spend a lot of money on domains, and the name it can have a big impact, but usually it's like, think about it, but don't spend a lot of time and money on it. All right, so we got our business name. Let's go back to here. And so we'll just basically put that down here. Let's isolate our value proposition. And so I think the prompt here was not as good because I asked it a few too many things. All right, so what I would do is just basically move on to this here. Alrighty. So this is a pretty good offer. I like it. I think we can utilize LinkedIn to do warm and cold outreach to the Founders Network to get 100 new users that are paying customers within 3 months. That's kind of the idea here. And so moving on to number 2, let me go ahead and just get started with that. This next section is going to be pretty awesome. And so, give you a little preview of what's coming up. Let me just paste this in. And so the step 3 and 4 are I arguably the most important. So we're gonna spend like out of the 10 hours here, we're gonna spend 2 hours on this, and then the other 8 on section 3 and 4. And most people flip it, and so I think that's where the majority of people fail and get it wrong. So we've got the avatar, we've got the name. Now we need to package it for impact. Turn your offer into something tangible, whether it's a product, service, bundle, or a program. And so the pricing and like the impact here is going to be pretty important. So if they're making 10K MRR, you're likely not going to be able to charge them 30 grand for your service, right? So you might have a starter plan like this. Let's just say it's 2K, uh, 2K a month. And then you have the pro plan, 5K. And so what you can do here is you can structure this as a rev share. You can take 20% of new clients. And so what I like to do is kind of structure something like this where it's just, hey, I would probably just pitch this first. Basically, we're going to take 5K. We've got a guarantee in 3 months, you get this investment back. So I like the guarantees like this. And basically, the reason I like this performance guarantee is one, it lights a fire under your butt to make sure that you can deliver on your promises. And two, it also is like if something just goes wrong, it gives you a little bit of an out. So we'll work for free until you do. And so by month one, you can also say, hey, by month one, if you're not seeing some traction, you can bypass things. Like if they're not getting people on the phone, if you're not getting any signups or conversions, you're likely just need to speed up your offer, right? And so something like this can be like, yeah, I would probably have an outline like week one. We look at your internals, and you're just trying to figure out what is their core value proposition that you're going to be able to use for outreaching to people. And so don't spend so much time on this. You do, of course, need to make sure that like the money makes sense and you're going to be able to fulfill on it. But since you're starting off, you shouldn't have that many expenses. Like you should be doing warm traffic, cold outreach, emails, making Loom videos for people. And so what you need to do is basically take this and just package it up. So let's make it a little bit cleaner. And so we're just going to like take this back to ChatGPT. I like to start new chats just in general. Like ChatGPT gets a little clunky if you got too much other stuff. Help me create a package uh, for selling to my avatar. All right, so it came over with 3 packages here. I like this. Let's just make it a little bit simpler. And like I said, I like to keep it really simple. And so basically what you have here is you've got your stuff, you got your package here, and we're just going to paste this back into our package here. And so what I would do again is I would get on phone call with somebody and say, "Hey, this is what we offer." And then I would say if that price point is you get to understand like, yeah, we're making 10K MRR, but like our revenue is like 10K, but our profit's only like 1 or 2. Yeah, they're probably not going to be able to like pay for this. They might see the value in it, or they might have some like stuff where we've got savings or investors or whatever. But in general, once you're talking to people, I would say, hey, let's pitch them this plan and then we can downsell them to a rev share. And this 20% might be too small. You need to figure out what the price point is. So, like, if they're selling like $10 a month stuff, it's probably going to be too small. But since it's B2B, I assume it's likely you're going to be able to sell yearly and monthly plans that are a little bit higher. And so you want to make sure you've checked out before you get on the call with them. Like, just take a spreadsheet and say, hey, I'm going to need for this business model, this price point, I'm going to need like $1,000, 20%. That's $200 per person per month. Yeah, it might work. So just figure out, play with the math, put it in the spreadsheet. You might need 30% of new clients, and that's only new clients you generate, just to be clear on the offer. And then the guarantee is, I would change this guarantee. The guarantee is the same. And so I say people can cancel at any time. Again, when you're new, you just got to make your offer a little bit like too irresistible. You got to give people you got to give them like the satisfaction and like assurance that it's going to work for them. And so what I would like to do is just, hey, I don't want to lock you up in any contracts. If we're not getting results for you, again, we can cancel and we'll still hold our guarantee that will work for you for free until we do. And basically what we're going to do here is we've got the offer, we got the packaging. Now we need to move on to threes. Like, we need to find actual sales and marketing. And so let's move on down to 3 here is get visible. And so this is where the fun stuff comes in. And so what I'm going to do is, before we get into any of this stuff, I'm going to also show you guys how you can get started with building a website, with getting email automation and everything for free for 30 days. And so if you click the link below in my description, it's going to give you an exclusive 30-day trial of High Level. And that's going to be the software I'm going to use and what I used in the past to basically go ahead and get your website up and running, your automation, everything. And so all you gotta do is click start extended free trial, and basically you'll answer a few questions. Within like 5 minutes, you're set up and you'll have a dashboard looking like this. And so in here, you can actually create your own website. You can sync it up. So the great thing about High Level is it does a lot of things, right? So you can actually use it as your software CRM. You can collect payments. You can use it as like content scheduler. You can do emails. You can book calls. Basically does it all, and it's like $97 a month. It's like one of the most robust tools out there. And so what we're going to be doing is we're basically going to be going in and building some automations. And so what I like to do here is, a lot of people struggle with the actual sales and marketing side of things. So before we get into that, we basically need leads. And so what we're going to do is we're going to build some automations in High Level. We're going to use these to actually get customers. And so the way that we do this is we need to figure out how can we attract that avatar and how can we get a hold of those leads. So what we're going to do is sign up for Apollo.io. And so the cool thing about Apollo is it's basically just scraped LinkedIn for a bunch of great leads. And all you can do is sign up for Apollo for free, answer some questions, and then you'll basically have access to a place to get thousands of leads for free. So you got to verify your email, and then once you're in, you're in. All right, so once you're in here, it's basically going to ask you some questions, find and get in touch with leads. That's kind of the main thing we're going to use it for. You can connect it to different mailboxes. We're going to skip for now. You can use this, but in general, I like to take the leads here, put them into High Level. So let's skip. You can download an extension. Let's just continue. And that extension can sync up to LinkedIn. And so the cool thing about Apollo is basically what we can do is just go back here and say, let's just take a screenshot of this. Go back to this avatar here. I am using Apollo and need the keywords to isolate my ICP on LinkedIn. Review the screenshot below. All right, so we're going to paste this, add this screenshot in here, and then we're going to use AI to help us generate a better targeting for our ICP. And so here's some of the keywords: founder, co-founder, CEO, managing director. So let's just put founder. All right, so what I would do again, and just like I like to go over to LinkedIn, I search this, and then I'll spend 10 minutes just combing through what these keywords come up with, and I'll click on people's profiles. I'll say, okay, this guy seems like a perfect fit. This guy doesn't. So what location? Let's just see what they came up with. The industry, commuters, internet. So in general, I suggest having like some sort of industry. Eventually you can start broader, but for this, let's just do e-learning and see what that looks like here. So e-learning, okay, that's only 4,000, probably like good enough to get started. But again, the more honed in you are, the easier it's going to be. And so number of employees, we want B2B. So we got to add in this market segments. So now what I'm saying here is like we're trying to get 1,000 leads to kind of focus on. And the more specific you can be, the better your messaging and marketing. It's going to be a lot easier. Because what we're going to do next is we're basically going to try to isolate and message these people and try to get them to become customers, right? And so let's just go next. And so the cool thing about Apollo is you can basically access their emails directly, access their phone numbers. You can export this data. Apollo is a really cool tool. It's basically just taken a lot of the LinkedIn Navigator old data and scraped it, I guess. And so what you can do is just select all these people, apply. And again, if you want to pay for the free, or if you don't want to pay for the plan, what you can do is you can just take this person, search on LinkedIn. And so what I would do is if you want to stay on the free plan, there are some like ways to just, I forget what the free plan actually includes. Let's see if it'll give us the email. So I can't show any of this user data like emails and sensitive stuff on here. And basically, I need to blur out these names and everything. And the reason I have to do this is because YouTube has some strict policies on revealing details about people, which I understand. And so basically, what I want to show you here is just kind of the process of how this works. And so what I would do is I would basically try to get this person's email, get their LinkedIn information, connect with them on LinkedIn, view a little bit more about them. And then I'm basically going to come up with a marketing email to send them. So this brings us down to number 4, sales and marketing. And so the sales and marketing portion is basically like, marketing is going to be like this: email, LinkedIn. And so what I want to do is I want to create a really simple formula for getting people either interested via email and LinkedIn. And so what I'm going to do here is I'm just going to create a really quick message. So I think that's still too long. And basically what I've seen work really well is try to keep it really, really specific, short, and to the point. So I also found like including like some sort of social proof in your email footer can be good. It also just gives you a little bit higher conversion rates. And so what I would do here is change this here. And so what I would do here is like put in their company name. All right, so this is something that I would use and as an example, right? This is email number 1. And so typically what I'm doing is I'm sending like 4 or 5 emails to people because the problem is most people just don't respond to cold email. And so what I would be doing is I would be coming up with a list of 100 people that I'm going to contact a day. And starting off, I'm just going to manually send these because I don't want to worry about, getting sent to the spam, doing all this stuff. So basically what I would do is I would connect with them on LinkedIn, send them an email, wait a few minutes, send them a LinkedIn message. And you can do 100 outreaches and usually it takes about 3 to 4 hours. And so that's what I suggest doing. And that's what I'm going to do here. Typically, what I do afterwards is I'll create a short Loom video, and Loom is just a free software. I'll give a unique one. I'll say, hey, I'll have their LinkedIn profile up here. I'll have their website up there. I'll make it really advanced, and I'll have a short 30 to 60-second script. Say, hey, I think, here's what we do. Here's how we can help your business and company. Let's set up a short call. And you just go through that same value proposition and show them a little bit more about how it works, customize it for their business. And then the goal is to get them on a sales call and get them started. And so the next step here, and most people really struggle at this point because they can't do 100 per day and they can't do it for, 2 weeks straight or even 10 hours straight. That's all you really need to do. You need to do this for 10 hours. That's it. So focus your time on this. So focus 2 hours on the other side and then 8 hours on this part. And so if you're selling anything over $1,000 and especially $1,000 a month, you typically need to have a sales call. And if you don't have social proof, just put your LinkedIn. And make sure like whatever social media profile is filled out, it's like legit. And then once you're going to do is they're either going to send you a link to get a call or whatever, get started. So you either send them the Loom and then the call to action to that Loom video is to schedule a call, and you'll have a button and link. Cool thing about High Level is you can actually build in a call scheduling thing through High Level, and it makes it a lot easier. Just book people up through sales calls. And so basically after that is once you're on the sales call, I like to structure it like this. Then you're basically going to get into where they're at now. To be in the future. What have they tried? And so these are some of the questions you want to be asking, like where they're at now. Like this is just kind of qualifying them to make sure they're a good fit. Where do they want to be in the future? Maybe they're fine with where they want to be. They don't have any desire to grow, but you want to really figure out, are these people ambitious? They're really growth hungry. And then what have they tried? If they've tried nothing themselves, usually not a good sign. Like they need to have probably tried, hey, I tried LinkedIn and it just didn't work for me. And, you can also like go into like why it didn't work for you. Here's why. And here's how our sort of approach is a lot different. And then basically like, hey, if you're in the same position next year, how's that going to feel for you? If you haven't grown at all, if you haven't got any new customers, how's that going to feel? And basically you're trying to figure out like, does solving this problem today actually make sense to them? And so I would say like 20 to 30 minutes discovery, and then 15 minutes on sales, objection handling. Sometimes it's 15 minutes. Let's say 15 to 20. And so 10 to 15 is going to be sales, like going over your process. Again, don't focus on the features, focus on the outcome. So you present the features as simple as possible. Don't get too into the weeds. Like you're not trying to have like teach them how your process works. You're trying to give them bullet points on like, here's what we do, here's the results we have, here's our guarantee. And if you don't have results yet, you can focus on the guarantee. And so basically, you're just saying, hey, you're at point A. We're going to get you 100 new customers in 90 days. It's going to generate this much in revenue. You're going to pay this, and here's going to be your ROI. And if we can't do that, here's our guarantee. And so don't focus on the features, focus on the outcome. And so once you have that open, basically what we're going to do is we're going to get these leads from Apollo. We're going to go back to our high level account, and we just create a new automation here. You can build it with AI. Again, I just like to make it simple. And so you can put in something like notify, a warm-up sequence for cold leads. But in general, we have a trigger here. And this trigger is just going to be like, they fill out a form or you manually enroll them. You can sync it up to Apollo. But in general, I like to keep it manual starting off because I want to have a little bit more control over it. And so let's just say it is, for now, form. So the form submitted is going to start the trigger. Make this bigger. And you can have multiple triggers that enroll people in the sequence. And so the sequence is, it is going to basically just send an email. It can also do things like LinkedIn, send a text message. There's a lot of other options out there. So the from name's from Mike. I like to use a real email. And so if you're doing this at scale, like if you're going to be sending out thousands, you don't want to use your primary domain. You want to have subdomains, but that's a whole nother, 10-hour video. So in general, if you're sending like manually or like enrolling manually, people, probably in general use not your main domain, but use a subdomain. Subject line, something to basically pique their interest. First name just works really good. And you can add it as a thing here, first name. And basically what we're going to do is just take this email that we've got here. And we're just going to build this email. And so the cool thing here is we can actually insert a tag so we don't have to manually company. And we need to make sure we add a hey. And so my formatting is a little screwed up here. Give me a second and I'll fix that. So we want first name. So I like Arial 16 in general. And so that's basically all you do. You can send a test email to see how it looks, make sure the formatting's good. And so we're going to build like 5 or 6 of these emails. And so the idea here is that we're going to find these people in Apollo, put them into a form. You can manually submit it, put in their company name, their email, their first name, and then they just get enrolled in this sequence. In the future, once you have a sequence that's working, you can essentially like put in a lot more leads. You can go to Apollo, put in 10,000 leads here. And you can have multiple domains and email senders and stuff. But again, in the beginning, I like to keep it simple. I like to keep it manual. And the reason behind this is you're going to get a little bit of insight on like, oh, this subject line isn't really working. People are like really responding to email number 3. So instead of like having an email number 3, let's make it email number 1. And so we get people a little bit faster results there. And so what you can do once you actually enroll this and start it, you'll have a stats view here. And so you have delivered, open, clicked, and you'll see all these data points. And basically what you want to do is keep fine tuning this sequence until it's like working really well. Don't make changes every day, but check like for every 1,000 emails, look at it and see how it's performing. And so basically what we're going to do is just do this for the next 6 hours. We're going to go to Apollo, find people, check their LinkedIn, send them a message on LinkedIn. Hey, I sent you an email. Did you get it? Okay. That can be as simple as that. And then you send them an email, you enroll them, send them a message on LinkedIn, and that's it. Afterwards, after they reply to you, you're either setting up the call or you're sending them a Loom video, and you're just going through the sequence, trying to get people onboarded. And so basically what I did is I did this for about 8 hours. And after 8 hours, I got an email with somebody who set up a call. They ended up paying me money for my offer, and I was able to land that client. And so I'm going to paste the screenshot here of the client's email of the Stripe payment. And essentially what I'm going to show you here is that you can do this. You can build a business in under 10 hours and get your first few customers. So if you enjoyed this video and you want more trainings like this, you can join the Earn From Anywhere community. Just click the link down below, and I'll have a bunch of other resources that I talked about today. And again, make sure that you get your free 30-day trial of High Level if you haven't yet, and you can start building your own system and website. Inside the Earn From Anywhere Academy, we actually do all this stuff for you, and join in there and we'll get you sorted. All right, we'll see you on the inside.